Hey everyone, welcome to Television from the Multiverse. I am Peter, that is Connor. We are going to talk about Black Lightning, Season 1, Episode 1. It is the very first episode. It is called The Resurrection. So we'll start spoiler free, as we typically do. We also usually introduce this as Almost Cancelled, because normally when we do an episode of TV on its own, it's a part of Almost Cancelled, or TV reviews. However, this is a DC show, it's a DC Comics TV show from the CW, which means that it will be part of our Television from the Multiverse podcast that we do weekly from this point on. This will be edited into the first, this week's episode of Television from the Multiverse, but episode 2 onwards, we will be reviewing it as part of that podcast, so there won't be individual reviews, but we still will be reviewing it going forward.
Yeah, you can catch that on here every Sunday.
Late Sunday night typically is when it goes up. So this will be repeated in that this week, and then from then on it'll just be in that show at the end of the week. But since it's in episode 1, we wanted to do a standalone thing and sort of get the word out there, and it gives us a chance to promote the podcast, but it also means that if you just want to check out the spoiler-free section of episode 1, you can come and check it out. So here we are. Yeah. So we will start spoiler-free because it is in episode 1, and we'll warn you before spoilers. So here we go. So this is the new DC show. This is the 5th Greg Berlanti DC show on the CW. And it's a smaller character that I feel like less people, I mean, not that everyone has heard of all the Legends characters, of course, but in terms of getting their own show, this is probably the lesser known character. This is Black Lightning. I don't have a great deal of familiarity with the character. I mean, I've heard of him.
Yeah, I know of him. I think I've read him in a couple of things here or there,
yeah,
but nothing.
I heard of his daughters. I think his biggest claim to fame, I think he was on The Outsiders, the team that Batman ran at one point.
That sounds familiar.
Yeah, I think that was his main claim to fame in the comics. But this is what the show's based on, and one of the things I actually like about the show is the premise is that he's been a hero before. That was something he did in his past. And he's older now, and he's got daughters who are, one's still in high school, one's a bit older. She actually works at the high school, because Jefferson, who's Black Lightning, he is now the principal of the high school. He's been out of the game for 9 years. He's been trying to sort of still be a good person and try and, help the neighborhood.
Better his community.
Yeah, but do it in a more sort of normal, by the rules kind of way. Yeah. By the book, that's what I meant to say there, but you know what I mean. So, I like that idea. I like the idea that he's pulled back into it in some way. It makes it a little bit different from the other shows, because obviously I think one of the questions you have to ask into another superhero show at this point is this one too many? Because we have a lot of them.
And I'd go out on a limb and say this, as a first episode, is better than most of the other CW shows' first episodes, by its nature of not being an origin.
Yeah, actually, I would agree with that. I would take away the nature of it not being its origin, and just say that on par, I think it is actually better than most of the other pilots.
I think it is as well, but even regardless of actual taste, quality, all the other things that we're going to get into in this discussion, just on premise alone, it's not an origin where every single other one has been, and okay, I'm kind of bored of that now.
Yeah, but I think if you take that out of the equation, it doesn't, it's still better, which is I think
probably is. Yeah, I think
it's just better produced and better. Well, actually, I think the biggest thing is that the acting is generally, because we always talk about in Supergirl how she kind of elevates the show. Not that the rest are bad. There's some really good actors, but she being the lead, she Melissa Benoist being the one who's kind of anchoring the whole show, she kind of elevates the material, and some of the other actors do as well in certain scenes. We've seen we've seen it happen with Alex, we've seen it happen with John, we've seen it happen with Wynn. God damn it. See, it's been off
6 weeks off. And
I know.
It all goes to shit.
The show's been off 6 weeks, and I'm forgetting characters' names. You can tell I've not watched this week's episode of Supergirl yet. Oh dear. But anyway, so you've seen what happened with them. But I think the thing that really stuck out to me in this show is I think the actor playing Jefferson, what's his name, Chris Williams. I think he's really good. I think he has gravitas. I think he has an air of wise middle-aged man about him, even though he's he has that kind of maturity to him.
Definitely.
Which kind of
again, it's something different to the other CW shows. He's older than all the other leads.
That's true. Yeah, it sets it apart. As well as the setting as well, of course. I mean, this is very clearly the black-focused hero. We've had the two sort of regular white dudes, I suppose, and we've had, of course, Supergirl being the female-focused show. This is very clearly supposed to be the black-focused show, and I think so. The acting from him, and I think the two daughters as well, are also very good. I feel like none of them felt like they were, this is the weak TV link actor of the bunch out of our main leads.
No, definitely not. And most shows have one. No, not even good shows. Most of them have.
Yeah, I think if I was going to pick one who might be the weaker link just now. It might be the ex-wife.
Yeah,
Lynn.
that's the one I was going to as
Now,
well.
mainly because in this episode she's kind of just the archetypical you shouldn't be doing this character, and that's kind of all she is for this episode. Now, there's potential that she could become much more than that and be much better than that, but at least in this pilot, that's
she's
kind
not
of what she
bad,
is.
but she's probably the most generic part of the show.
Yeah, that's going to be a putting it. She's generic compared to everyone else who feels a little bit different. I think the other thing I'd say about this show from the first episode is that the subject matter it's dealing with is a lot darker than the other shows.
Yeah, there's a scene. I won't say anything about it, but I think it's based like the first or second scene, and it's possibly the most real and intense thing I've seen on the CW ever.
Yeah, there's that scene, of course, which is very timely. We'll just say, politically speaking, it's just a timely sort of scene to have. But even just some of the subject matter and the threat from the bad guys later on in the episode, I felt like, oh, we've never seen any characters in The Flash be threatened with this.
No, it's true. They obviously it's not really. And say, there's a bunch of gangs in the area, and that's part.
Well, one in particular,
the one in particular, but they mentioned there were others.
Yeah, the 100 is the name of the main gang that we're dealing with.
But and we've seen superhero shows deal with gangs before, like all over the place. But they are treated a bit differently here.
Well, yeah, they have characters. They're not just the faceless gang. They're just there to be bad guys and henchmen to fight. I mean, sure, there's red shirt villains. Don't get me wrong. He's punching people at times, but there's the leader. There's the sort of the main one under him that we kind of like follow and stuff. Like we have characters that we're kind of building. And I think so. It's clear we liked the episode. Just from the general tone we've got going here, which I'm about to say I did quite like it. I think there's one or two points where I'm like, okay, that's where maybe there's a clash of the tone it's going for and the typical superhero shenanigans.
Yeah, one for me in particular that really stood out is a music choice in an action sequence. It's got a hip hop track going as he's going through doing his thing, and I'm like, okay, this is cool, but the moment that it's actually going to feels like it needs a bit more gravitas in the music than just the hip hop track, which is okay. I get what they're going for tonally with that, but maybe not at this point.
Yeah, it almost felt like this will sound cool, and I feel like the subject matter is beyond just being cool. Like you're actually going for something with a bit more weight here, and I think typically it kind of does that. There's a great scene in the middle where and again we're still on spoiler free, but Jefferson goes to the local gang leader to talk about an incident that happened at school, and basically we find out that he has kind of an agreement with the gangs that the school's kind of a safe zone, like nothing happens at the schools, and the gang leaders we'll maybe explore this more as we go on, but for whatever reason they're on board with this and they agree and there's no trouble on either side. But something happened and he goes to speak to this gang leader, and we see him like treat this kid that's kind of around the gang headquarters kind of poorly. This the Lala's the guy's name, the character's name, the gang leader, and he's been like this rough with this kid. And of course we've seen Jefferson be a high school principal. He's been a teacher. We see him walking. There's a scene where he's actually walking around the halls and he's just like he's quickly saying things to various students. He's got things going on with like
like tuck that shirt in.
Yeah, no, even just like is there someone who's working on the yearbook and he's like, hey, I've got the first prints of the yearbook, come and see me later. So and it's like he seems to have a really good rapport with the kids where he's talking to them all. And we see him have to watch this gang leader, I don't want to say assault, but just aggressively discipline, we'll say, the kid. And you can see the uncomfort in his face. Like he's uncomfortable watching this, and this is not how he wants things to be done. And of course they're from two different worlds, but I think that conflict of I've tried to do better by being a principal, and in a lot of ways I have, but there's a lot of things that are kind of going on anyway.
There are still people that are being failed.
Yeah. And obviously a lot of the episode is about him, what draws him back out into the superhero life, if you will. I will say there's nothing in this episode that actually says it can't be in the CW verse. There's
not. We've been told it's not, but there's nothing at this point that means it can't be.
I feel like next crossover they're just going to be like, oh, by the way, it's in the same world. Just go with it.
Yeah. As of right now, sure.
Well, because, I mean, I think the key point I'll bring up here to support the idea that it could be is that no one seems surprised that someone has superpowers. Like, they talk about him, like, Black Lightning was this vigilante, did these things, but no one ever talks about how it's weird that he has powers.
To be fair, though, because we don't know how long he was active for when he was, so it might have just been a case that he normalized it. Like, they had that discussion of, this is weird powers.
Okay.
They did that already, a decade ago. And now it's just like, okay, powers are a thing.
Okay. I don't know. I feel like there's a normalcy to it. So if they tell me in a season or two, oh, by the way, it happens to be set in the same universe, yeah, sure, it's fine. Like,
sure. I guess the problem is, why didn't it's the ultimate problem of, on those other shows, why didn't we hear about this guy running around a decade ago? Why did no one ever mention him? I don't know. You'd feel like that'd be national news.
Yeah, maybe. I feel like it's a smaller enough example somewhere else in the country that I don't need to buy that these characters would bring him up, especially if they treat him like a myth, like where he was kind of like, the local press would talk about him as if he's like a myth or something, but
no, that's fair.
There was never necessarily footage of him like blasting lightning at things and stuff that went viral or anything like that.
Yeah, no, that's quite possible.
Can I just say, it makes you feel really old when the big gap in the show is 9 years, and I'm like, I was already an adult 9 years ago. This is like this doesn't feel like an old era. It feels like, no, this is still just modern times 9 years ago. What are you doing?
It does, doesn't it? Yeah.
I mean, 9 years ago was what, 2009? Like, I mean,
yeah. Christ, I had to think of that far too long.
But so making me feel old. Sure, a lot of shows are doing that recently. Runaways especially was bad for it.
I think it might be just a sign that you're old.
And you as well.
Hey, I'm significantly younger than you. Thank you very much.
It's not significantly.
It's enough.
It's like 3 or 4 years. It's not significant.
Significantly enough.
We're the same generation, you little turd.
Significant enough.
Hey, in Runaways, when she looked at that VHS tape and said, "What the hell is this?" you were equally just, "Oh my god, I'm so old." You equally had the same thoughts. So shut up.
Yeah, I did.
So shut up. Yeah. So cast is good. Like I said, I think there's a couple of superhero like archetypes or tropes that kind of clash almost with the otherwise serious tone. But there are some genuinely kind of tense and serious moments that I was not expecting this to go down so quick.
No, it opens with them, and it's like, oh no, that's what this show is.
Yeah, but it does it multiple times throughout the episode, because I was almost thinking, oh, we've done that now, we're going to just kind of... Like, that was going to be the big mission statement in the first scene, kind of just to set the world up, but then I was half expecting them to just kind of like tone it down after that, and it didn't really do that. It did other darker things throughout the episode.
Yeah, definitely.
So, I appreciate that. Like I said, I mean, I really like the main trio. Obviously, James Remar's kind of the Alfred character. He's the guy who helps him build stuff, and he's a tailor, and he's got a secret lair.
Yeah, patches him up a bit, the usual sort of stuff.
I mentioned this before we started recording. He's got a mustache, and he's the right age now that he looks like Commissioner Gordon. He looks like he could be playing that character. I do like James Remar. My only worry from his perspective, though, is that in this episode, at one point when he's saying, "Oh, you should be doing this. You're destined to do this." Like, the city needs Black Lightning. I was getting severe Dexter flashbacks, because when he was, the dead dad in Dexter's head in that show, it was reminding me a lot of that. I'm like, all right, let's quickly get past those memories, shall we? I won't forget that show. Thank you very much.
I never had the misfortune.
Hey, it started off as a good show.
Yeah, but by the time I was like, oh, maybe it was already getting into the point where people were starting to jump off. I just went, you know what? I'm not putting myself through that.
The last half of the show was not kind.
Yeah,
I never even watched the final season, and then I heard how it ended, and I was glad that I didn't watch the final season. So, yeah.
My request going forward is, can they please slow down the closing credits a touch? I would like to be able to catch some of the names. Oh,
in this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, not on Dexter.
Yeah, we're back on Black Lightning. Yeah.
I was like trying to catch who was doing the music on this one. And it just cuts through them so quickly. I'm like, whoa. Slow down.
Yeah.
It's just not possible.
So yeah, it's pretty good. Got a couple nitpicks. There's a couple of, Like there's an inspector character who's kind of like, oh, he's part of the police, but he's kind of part of the problem, and we're kind of seeing how him playing with the system too much has kind of made him part of the problem, and it's kind of like Jefferson realizing that and noticing that's kind of one of the themes of the first episode. And there's that kind of comparison there. He's okay, but he's kind of just what he is as a character plot wise.
He is at the minute, but they're the sort of things that I'll forgive for a few episodes, because first episode you focus on your main stuff and then move out from there.
Here's something I do want to praise this first episode about, is I actually feel like this didn't really suffer too much from rushed pilot syndrome.
No, I don't think it did.
Certainly not to the same extent that most pilots do of this kind.
No, I think there was a few points, but because it wasn't an origin story, they didn't know quite how to handle a few things, so we got just some exposition of, here's who this guy is, here's who he was. I'm like, okay. And there was like 3 or 4 times where I felt they just read a paragraph at me so that I was caught up on a few things.
Yeah, I think the weakest part of the episode actually is a couple of quick little flashback moments.
Yeah,
and I actually think those are the weakest scenes of the episode, because I feel like they're just there to try and like fill us in a little bit, just to quickly explain.
Yeah, I didn't really need it, but I think that's why it's not rushed, is because they're just giving us the exposition in a couple of paragraphs, so they're not rushing the other elements.
Yeah, the problem with that though is that the information feels deeply uninteresting to hear about.
It does, yeah.
And I actually think it would almost work a little bit better if they let some of it just be a mystery. We'll find out. We've got a season of a TV show to watch. We'll get it as we go.
There's one part, he's getting introduced onto the stage, and it's like, right, here's this guy's history. Here's everything you need to know. He's Olympian.
It's a all this silly long introduction, just to explain to the audience all these different things about him. Yeah. But yeah, so I mean that's just network TV. They feel they have to over-explain stuff. They have to dumb things down. They have to make sure they say things 5 times just in case we miss it.
It felt more noticeable here though, because everything else was taking its time a bit. Yeah,
no, everything else was pretty well paced. I appreciate that. So I think with that, we'll say spoiler warning. We'll say full spoilers, and we will go into the plot of the episode. And the various things that stuck out as being dark is the first thing I want to talk about. So I don't recall any characters on Flash or even Arrow being threatened with being turned into a prostitute and being doped up to do so.
No.
See when that came up, because so the younger daughter wants to go party, and she says she's going to a house party. Her big sister lets her, but it turns out she's actually going to a club, and this gang member, I didn't catch his name actually. Will, that's his name. Name's Will.
I did catch it.
And I just looked at it there and saw it. But he's like sort of chatting her up, and then these other gang members come in, and they end up going to the boss man, Lala, and it's a very uncomfortable scene because she's just sort of dragged along, even though she just met him, and Lala
just happens to be with him. Yeah.
He keeps speaking down to her, and then when Will kind of implies, "Oh, that's my girl," and she's like, "I'm not your girl, I just met you," and she gets a little, she knees him in the balls at one point, which is a really nice little moment, because up until that point, she's been spoken down to so much by Lala. So no, you shut up, woman. No, you just stay quiet. Like, you just keep saying things like that. We're speaking here. Be quiet. Know your place. That kind of attitude. So her kneeing him in the balls was extremely satisfying at that moment. But then he's like, "Oh yeah, maybe we should take her over to the motel and make her work off some of your debt." And I'm like, "Wait, what? We're going this dark? Yeah. So quick?"
And he's just goes, "Yep, sure, mum. That sounds fair."
Yeah, it's ultra dark, and obviously this is the big thing that makes Jefferson. He's like, "Okay, I'm going to get my daughter." He comes in and does his thing, and he mostly stays out of the sight and stuff and whatnot. And obviously, you mentioned the opening scene where they're pulled over by the police right after they left the police station. Might I add? Because the older daughter was protesting the gangs, and a bunch of them got arrested. So she's in lockup.
Yeah, I'm a little unclear on that, because she says, "Oh, it was this peaceful protest," but he does go, "Yeah, but there was all this stuff set on fire." I'm like, okay.
To me, it sounds like it started peaceful, but there were some
got out of hand a bit.
Yeah, because I think let's say 70% shot for a peaceful protest, then you have the 30% who want to start.
It's no longer peaceful. I just could have done with a bit more clarification, because he made it sound like no, it was never going to be peaceful. And I just a little bit on that would have been nice.
I think that's a fair thing, though. I think you could say that that's kind of his point here, is that she was naive to think
maybe. But again, could have done with a bit of that being said, in this conversation. Obviously, it gets cut short, unfortunately.
It gets cut short because the cops pulled him over. Because someone robbed the liquor store, and he even points out the hypocrisy. Because throughout the whole thing, while he's been handcuffed, and while they're trying to ask the daughters to come out the car and all the various things, he's just yelling, "Put it on your phone, just do what they say." He's trying to he's doing what he can to make sure no one's getting hurt.
Yeah, because the daughters are in the car and they're being told to put their hands on the dashboard, but one of them's filming it, and she's like, "No, I've got a right to film this." And
Which
he's just
again feels very
yeah,
current, very topical.
yeah, and obviously they've got the guns out and stuff, and he's having none of it. He's like, "No, just put your hands down."
Yeah, obviously his attitude here is no, daughters, be safe. I don't want any of you doing something that's going to like cause a reaction, and then I'll have I'll because it's after what because they take him up to the car and there's like an old Chinese woman in the back seat, and they're like, "Oh, is this the guy?" And she's like, "No," and I said, "Let him go. Have a nice night, sir. Go away." And he's like, "What? What's this about? You're not even gonna tell me why I was like forced up against the car and in the rain, everything else." And he's like, what was the description? A black guy, and because he's wearing a suit, he's going to this fundraiser to be like given an award. He's in a suit. He's in like a small family car. He's got 2 daughters in the car. Like, what part of this fit the description, other than the fact that that he's probably black? Like, give me one other thing.
And also, how they could tell that at night in a car.
Yeah, the whole thing. So obviously it's very, very political, very topical, and that's where I think the inspector guy comes in, because we see him at the fundraiser, and at one point there's like a small comment where he's like, "Oh, by the way, I'll see about those people who pulled you over. They're not some of mine." And it feels like, okay, but you kind of, it's starting that thing where he's part of the system. So even though,
yeah, it's kind of doing this thing where he's like, "Okay, no, that was wrong. I'll have him look into." But at the same time, it feels like no, this is so everyday that he hasn't even noticed.
Yeah. So it's raising all these things, and I think the tension while he's been handcuffed and he's begging his daughters to just cooperate, and then the anger afterwards when he's just yelling at the cop, demanding like, what's the justification for this? Like, you just did this, then justify it. Tell me why this happened. All of it felt real. All of the emotion in the scene felt really good, and it's especially impressive when it's 2 minutes into the episode, 3 minutes into the episode.
It was when that, because when they're in the police station at the very start, I'm like, okay, this is fine, but there's nothing to it yet. It's it's the opening. And then this happens, I'm like, okay, I'm interested now.
Yeah, and it was shot really well. I thought it was really well handled with the camera work.
Yeah, real nice lighting as well.
Yeah, because you've got the police lights on the car, red and blue and whatnot, and it's just giving it some atmosphere. So it was really well handled, and it really set you in this. Okay, this is what we're going to deal with, subject matter. This is how and I think that scene beforehand is a little bit important though, because you have just that little bit of like the sister complaining, "Oh, that's my dress. You took my dress." It's just a little bit of just a little bit of normal human stuff. Just to like, okay, here's your characters. Here's what they're like. The 2 sisters bickering, very relatable. You get them right away.
There's nothing wrong with that scene on its own. When you're first watching it, you're like, okay, this is fine. Obviously there's nothing there to grab you at this point, but there's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah, but it gives you just a little bit. You get he's the dad. He's kind of pissed off that his daughter's doing this, and he cares about his thing that he's going to. The sisters are bickering because they're sisters, and that's what they do. And then it's like this all happens. It's like it just does enough to like, okay, no, so they're not caricatures. They're real people first, and then you put them in the scene, and it works tenfold because of that. It would have been effective on its own if it just opened with them in the car. It would have still worked, but it worked just that little bit better because we just get a little bit of time beforehand to just get a sense of who they were first.
Agreed.
As people. So, and then from there, as we say, we have all the other things. And yeah, so not only we have this scene where Will, after being, he kind of comes to see Jennifer, the younger daughter, at the school. And again, she's still a student. And he sort of just like kind of comes up to her outside the building, and she just wants to get away. She's like uncomfortable, like, all that stuff that almost happened, all this stuff. And the big sister, Anissa, comes in and actually shows that she's kind of capable of taking care of herself.
Yeah, it looks like Jefferson's maybe taught his daughters a thing or two.
Yeah, just a little bit of self-defense, if nothing else. Gets him on the ground. And he just loses his temper. He's about to go for his gun. This is when Jefferson and the security guards are coming out, and Jefferson comes up and he actually grabs his hand on the gun. He's like, hey, what are you going to do? You're going to pull that gun out? What's going to happen? You're going to... And Joe, I love it about this scene. He never even mentions it's his daughter that he was threatening. He never even brings that up. He doesn't make it personal.
He's just like, look, I know you for reputation. You're on probation, right? There's cameras all around. You pull that out, that's it. You're away for life.
I think it shows he maybe has like, he tries to keep aware of his neighbourhood. He tries to keep aware
he's up
of
to
who's
date
in it.
on who's who, isn't he?
I think working at a school helps with that because you get a sense of who everyone is through their kids.
Yeah, no, definitely. And even Lala, is an ex-student, so it's like, okay, he's aware of who they all are because he probably taught a lot of them at this age.
Yeah. So, it's a very well done scene, but I was not expecting the the extremely dark and uncomfortable scene again. Especially, it comes after there's a debate. There's the teacher, the assistant head teacher, or whoever it is. He's got a bit of a crush on him because his ex-wife kind of points it out a few times. Oh, she's got a thing for you. She's having a debate with him earlier on about installing metal detectors in the school. Which is a pretty common thing now. It's a safety precaution, and he's insistent. No, this should not be a thing because I'm not turning the school into something that feels like a jail. Right, we're not doing that. But later in the episode, after this, Will and two cronies come in. They just storm into the building, past everyone, come into the classroom where Anis is teaching, and Jennifer's in the class, and just pull them both out of the class at gunpoint. It's actually a really dark scene. Like I was not expecting this intensity in the first episode.
And you have to imagine that they're getting metal detectors now, whether they like it or not.
Oh yeah, after this,
like
probably.
The board are winning that debate.
Yeah, at this point, I think so, yeah. Although I suppose an argument could be made that they just stormed in anyway. It wasn't a student who snuck something in. But
No, it's true. But you imagine there's usually someone manning a metal detector.
Oh, that's true. At the very least, it'll just make them feel better, even if it wouldn't actually have solved this particular incident.
Yeah, that's the point in a lot of those things anyway. They're deterrents. Just, the idea of, okay, no, we can see this.
Yeah. So, no. And it's because I think, because at the start, I mean, obviously you never sympathise with Will, because he's far too up for the whole, we'll make this random girl I just met go be a prostitute to settle my debt. So, right away, you're never on his side. But you kind of think he's just this slimy little weasel who, and he's still a weasel, don't get me wrong, but this adds on that he's got a temper where he's willing to do something extreme immediately just because he feels like he's been upset or he's been humiliated. That's basically what this is.
And we see pretty quickly that this is not approved by the gangs.
By Lala, yeah, because Lala is pissed at him and pistol whips him again in front of the girls. It's a very dark scene. All this is going on, and then he says, "Oh yeah, get rid of them, make them disappear." So the implication is they're going to be killed or shipped off to be prostitutes somewhere else, whatever it's going to be. Like that's the implication is pretty dark either way. And of course, this is the thing, because all through the episode, because Lynn sees, of course, in the news that at the nightclub thing, okay, so they're saying there was black lightning back, no one really saw, but it kind of looks like it was, because there was, some, fried...
electrical stuff going on.
Yeah, someone got fried, basically, so they're thinking, black lightning's back. And she asks him, I actually really like that scene, as much as I think she's a little bit generic in her whole, I don't want you doing this, I kind of like the moment where she actually unbuttons his shirt a little bit, and he's like, you're not going to find anything. And I'm like, but she will if she just goes far enough to the right. But I love that he plays it so he's so confident when he says it. But as soon as she leaves, he's like, "Oh, my wound, my bullet wound."
Grabbing his side. It's amusing.
Which I think it's that's one of the little moments that shows me how much of a good actor he is. That scene played really well, as him holding that in and just playing that off as if it was normal without it feeling phony. So I appreciate that. But even after this, when the inspector's like, oh, I'm going to let me do my job, and he just starts walking out immediately after, and she's like, oh, where you going? I'm getting my girls back. She doesn't even dispute. She's like, yeah, go, be Black Lightning, go do it. Yeah. And of course, James Remar, Peter Gamby's character, the Alfred, he's got a new fancy suit waiting for him. He's like, yeah, he's been ready to go. He's been waiting.
Well, to be fair, we did see him try and talk him back into it as well earlier when he was patching him up.
Sent him a text as well.
The society, the community needs you out there as Black Lightning. So it makes sense that he's been developing this. He's been trying. He thinks that he can finally convince him, and then he'll be like, "Oh, I got this, by the way." Yeah,
I'll tell you this. I'll tell you what I did not know about Black Lightning. So he comes in, he's got his suit on, and I like that his electrical powers kind of light up the suit. Like he kind of does that.
Yeah.
I like that. It's kind of like made to conduct his power. I'll tell you what I didn't know he could do though. I didn't know he could hold someone in air with his electricity. That came as a bit of a surprise to me when he had Will kind of levitating almost.
Yeah, this is the sequence I was about where he's going to get his daughters back, and I get it. Do you want to play it cool? Because he's suited up for the first time now. He's going out there, and this is where the hip hop track comes in. I'm like, okay, this is playing like it's really cool and fun. Because it is, it's a fun scene, the way, when he's walking up. It plays great.
I think the right tack there would have been to play it more classically heroic than cool.
Yeah.
I would agree with that. So. Like, I think it worked earlier on when he's in the nightclub. And it was,
I like it there. It's this one here where it's such this big moment. He's got to save his daughters. He's suit up for the first time again.
And the threat has been so dark throughout the episode. Like, all the things that have been threatening, all these moments that have happened in front of him, it's felt like so...
It makes it seem a bit easy when you put this music on it, and he's just kind of storming through guys like that.
Yeah. So I think that is maybe my biggest criticism of the episode, and it's not a big deal, but it is worth mentioning. Because I think a lot of things, the characters are the main thing, and I think them being set up is working well. And of course, we have the big moment at the end, or tease. Because if you're unfamiliar with Black Lightning, his daughters do also become powered individuals. They become heroes. Anissa becomes Thunder, and Jennifer should become Lightning. And Thunder has basically super strength. It's a bit more complicated than that, but it basically amounts to super strength. Yeah. There's a lot of science mumbo jumbo as to how she's doing it, but it's basically super strength, and that's kind of what we see a glimpse of at the end, is her getting her powers.
Yeah, I really like that she wakes up. She's hearing some of those lines. The get rid of them, and it's this. Okay, the trauma's sticking with her. It's not just to be forgotten about.
Yeah, it's because again, like it plays so horrifically when her and her sister are in that motel room and they're watching Will be pistol whipped. Like, it feels terrifying. Like they should be terrified by this. So I like that the PTSD almost of it is what kind of makes the powers kind of come to the surface. Yeah. I expect that if Jennifer finds out, she'll be like complaining for a little bit. Why does she get powers? Why am I not getting powers?
Yeah, quite possibly. But obviously they don't know that their dad has powers, right?
I don't know. Did they recognise him? Because he only has those goggles on. It felt like there was a moment of recognition to me.
This is the thing. I wasn't sure, and there was a moment earlier on where the older one. So after the Club 100 stuff, and the two of them are watching the news report on the TV, and they're like, "Oh, is Black Lightning back?" The older one kind of looks around, like she's like, "Okay, where's Dad?"
Like she, because
like
we know
she might know.
When she was a kid, she walked in on when he was all wounded.
Yeah.
So maybe she has a suspicion, maybe not a knowledge.
So she maybe has more to know. I don't think the younger one knows.
Okay.
But maybe I'm reading that wrong. That's just how I saw it.
I can tell you've not learned their names yet.
Yeah.
The younger one.
I don't have them next to me, so.
Jennifer.
There we go. Hey, older and younger sufficed for that there. Everyone knew who was who in that conversation.
Oh dear.
Give me peace, damn it.
So, of course, the other thing we have to talk about is Tobias, who's the actual big bad of the show. We see a couple of scenes with him. We see that he's the head honcho. He's in hiding. No one seems to know he's still around. That doesn't work for him.
Yeah, and this is the thing. Do they think he's dead? Because Jefferson, when he's talking to not Alfred, he mentions, when this started, it was about killing Tobias Whale. It was about killing him for what he did to his parents, I think, or his father or something. And
not Alfred, meaning Gamby. There we
go. Not Alfred.
Right. Yeah. So that implies that Black Lightning thinks he killed Tobias, which is interesting because at the end of the episode, when we see Tobias with Lala and he's pissed, he shoots a harpoon at him for being a wreck.
I love that. If you've got a name, play into it.
So he implies that he thinks he killed Black Lightning. He's like, I killed Black Lightning. But who is this? So
no, I don't think he meant literally on that one actually. So
literally, okay.
Because he's talking about how the resurrection. I think he just means I killed him. I made him quit. I made him stop being Black Lightning. For all intents and purposes, he's dead.
I kind of like the idea that they both thought they'd killed the other one.
Okay, I wasn't reading this one that way at all.
No, you may be right, but I just kind of like that idea that they both think they killed the other one, and they're both in hiding, thinking that they're.
I like that idea, but here it was more of a no. You've made him come back. This is on you, and I won.
I can see that. I like his henchman. He's got this woman who's got a really sort of straight fringe, right? And then he has not Max Landis as the other one. And
you're right.
And they're kind of goofy, but they kind of work. I kind of like it.
Yeah,
that's working for me.
I think he has a presence.
He does. He's got a cool look.
He does.
His facial hair's not unlike yours. Actually, he's got the chin curtain.
It does. It's a bit bigger than mine at the moment.
Aye. Well, I mean, you could let yours go a bit bushy.
I could do. But then at that point, it's going, well, why haven't you shaved your head and become an evil villain?
Because you're going for the Harry Knowles look, not the Tobias look.
I'll take it. I think.
I can't remember the last time I brought up Harry Knowles in a conversation that was relevant.
I don't know when the last time anyone did.
Ain't it cool news still a thing? I don't know.
No.
I have no idea.
So.
I have no idea. What, did he change his name and become Bleeding Cool? Is that what happened? Did Ain't It Cool become Bleeding Cool?
Do not reference that atrocity on here.
I don't know. The integrity is kind of similar if I'm thinking about it. So, so to set him up, he's a little bit more comical, I guess. He's kind of the classic comic book villain in his evil lair. Dark lighting. Yeah. I like it so far though. I like his kind of vibes. So
I like it with him. I hope it keeps him in the background for a while. Okay, he's the one behind the scenes. Calling the shots, running the gangs.
I feel like that an obvious thing is like maybe halfway through the season, like Jefferson will find out he's alive. Like he won't even know it's him that's existing. It'll be a big moment for him when he finds out. No, Tobias is still out there somewhere. He's pulling the strings. That's interesting. But no, I do think the whole. I'm a fan of secret identity stuff. I know some people get really sick of it. I actually do think the idea that he's a principal during the day is going to be a really interesting dual life to lead.
Yeah, because that's a pretty busy job as it is.
Yeah. I mean, it'll give him some insights, I assume. Like, maybe he'll hear that some kid's having trouble with his parents because his parents may be up to something, and he'll like use that as intel and step in and do his thing. But I just think it's different. It's different, because I'm used to Superman with being a reporter. I'm used to Peter Parker being a high school teenager or whatever.
It's different to have a secret identity with actual responsibilities.
Yeah.
Because most of them don't. Not really.
I don't know. I feel like Barry Allen should have responsibilities working at a crime lab.
But this is the thing. He just rushes through it anyway at super speed.
That's true. He's got powers to kind of cover for the fact that he's hardly there.
Yeah, whereas he's responsible for other people in a very direct way. But
it's also the same people he's trying to protect, so there should be some nice
crossover with that. Yeah,
I can see that working
definitely.
Quite well. I'm quite pleasantly surprised. Like I didn't think this was going to be bad, but I went into it with very no expectations of any kind.
Yeah, it's better than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, so I'm pleased. I'll happily ditch Arrow for this. That's all I'm saying. Happily.
Me too, but I need a reason to drink every week.
Oh, God.
And it's been quiet this past month.
I know. So
what does it tell you about me where the bit of the year with Christmas and New Year's has been the quiet drinking period?
That is a bit strange, admittedly. Yeah. So I think just to sort of sum up, I'm liking the premise, I'm liking the vibes, and more importantly though, I'm liking him and I'm liking his two daughters, who are kind of the most important characters.
A moment that proper made me chuckle is after he comes in, after the Club 100 stuff, and he gets told that his daughter was there, and he's like, "What? Really? What's going on?"
Yeah, no, I kind of like that. Again, I like the way he played it. There was a very sort of natural kind of lying that I liked. Actually, that reminds me, I liked Will immediately shoots him. When he comes up in the suit at the end. Yeah. Will immediately fires a bullet, and the electrical force field that's created by the suit and his powers, which I love that idea, by the way.
Kind of stops it. It's got a great visual to it though.
It does. It's like every time something hits him or he hits something, it's kind of like when you like spark a wire, like a metal against a wire. It's got that kind of effect.
It's why I really like that sequence, even though that the music I think is playing it too fun. It's a really great sequence of him just kind of going through all the guys, and you got that one guy who comes out of the motel room to see what's going on. He's just like, nope, not getting involved with that.
I will say I did think at the end when the police were there and he's up on the roof, I thought it was like he looks really obviously just up in that roof. That's not too high. That's not high enough to not be noticed.
Yeah, I know. It was getting me as well.
Yeah, it was just a little bit silly in that sense. But yeah, so Will immediately shoots him, and he pulls out the bullet from his force field, and he's like, oh. He's like, hey, at least give me a chance to say something heroic before I beat you. Like,
let me have a chance to get my quippy one-liner.
I want my one-liner. I like that. He's got a sense of humour.
He does.
So no, I'm on board.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah, so as we say, it won't be individually up every week. It will be at the end of the week with the other DC shows in the podcast on a late on a Sunday. So that's where you can see reviews of further episodes. So check out Television From The Multiverse, which of course there's an audio feed for as well. Link to that in the description and all the usual stuff. But so let us know what you thought of Black Lightning episode 1 in the comments. Like, subscribe, all the usual crap. I just said that, but this is different usual crap. This is usual crap about what I usually say at the end of the video. So yeah, if you want to support the channel and the show and everything we do here, head over to patreon.com/MailFuzzTV. There'll be a link to that as well in the description, so you can do that. But otherwise, that's us. So thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching TV, and we'll see you next time.